Welcome to another episode of Marketing Made Easy for HR Consultants. Today we're diving into a hot button issue in the HR consulting world. Should HR consultants share the prices for their services publicly? This topic has sparked considerable debate, and in today's episode we're going to dissect it thoroughly. Should you be transparent with your pricing or keep it under wraps until the sales call? Stay tuned, because by the end of this episode, you'll have all the information you need to make an informed decision once and for all. So let's get started. This is the Marketing Made Easy for HR Consultants podcast, a show to help independent HR consultants get a pipeline of perfect fit, high-paying clients without expensive adverts, time-consuming social media activities, or energy-sapping and monotonous networking meetings. I'm your host, Nick Paninsky, author of How to Land Your Dream Client, a book which explains everything you need to know to get every sale and client you ever want. And if that sounds interesting, then make sure to grab your copy from the influential consultant website today. That being said, let's get into today's show. Hello there. It's great to have you back here with me today as we tackle an important question for HR consultants and business owners alike. But before we dive into the meat of today's discussion, I wanted to share a quick update about where I am and what I've been up to. I'm currently in the lovely town of Shrewsbury, where I'm house sitting a beautiful cat called Ezzy. She's black, brown, white, ginger, and very affectionate. And whilst I've been down here in Shrewsbury, I visited the Old Town, Assingham Park, and later on I'll be off to the Abbey, the Castle, the prison, and the Quarry. Busy, busy, busy. In other news, I've got an exciting new campaign launching next week, but if you're part of my mailing list, then you'll hear more about it on Friday. Equally, I may just share a bonus podcast on Saturday morning. Got to serve you guys before the general public, right? But enough about that. Let's get on to today's topic of pricing, and specifically whether HR consultants should share the prices for their services publicly. This question isn't as straightforward as it might seem. It comes with a lot of nuances and considerations. So let's break it down piece by piece. To start off with, let's ensure we all understand what I'm talking about here. Pricing is obviously one of the key factors when it comes to whether someone invests in your services or not. But there's a lot more to it than a set of numbers, right? So be clear, what I'm talking about in this podcast is a set service or product, not an ad hoc project. Because obviously, how would you ever share your prices for an ad hoc project, right? But in all seriousness, yeah. What we're talking about today is whether to share your prices for a set service or product. One thing I'll repeat from last week, nice and early, is that if you're trying to sell off the page, that is without a conversation, then there will have to be a lot of touch points if you're trying to sell something for over £500, say. And by touch points, what I mean is interactions, like this podcast, a LinkedIn article, LinkedIn post, etc., etc. I've read somewhere that it can take up to 7 hours worth of interactions, which sounds like a lot, but in reality, it's probably not far from the truth. We don't often invest in products or services we know very little about. We generally go for something we can trust. That's why corporations like McDonald's spend so much money advertising their products, even though we already know that they exist and what we're going to get from them. They like to remind us that they can be trusted. So yeah, getting someone to buy off the page, whatever the price is always a difficult thing to accomplish. So if you're trying to sell something for over £500, you've got a hell of a lot of work to do. It's not impossible, but it is difficult. So bear that in mind for the rest of this podcast. Now, in case you weren't aware, pricing is vitally important to you as a self-employed HR consultant. It's more than just numbers. It shapes your revenue, your market standing, and how clients perceive you. And equally, it impacts your actual life, right? So nail your pricing strategy and you ensure fair compensation for your expertise, which fuels your business growth and your personal life. Proper pricing also sends a clear message about the value of your services, attracting the right clients and deterring mismatches. So let's talk about the positives of sharing your prices publicly first. Firstly, let's talk about transparency and how it builds trust. In any business relationship, trust is paramount. When you openly share your prices, it shows that you have nothing to hide. This transparency can make potential clients feel more comfortable and confident in your services. Imagine walking into a restaurant where the menu has no prices listed. You might feel uneasy, wondering if you'll be hit with a huge bill at the end, right? Conversely, seeing the prices up front helps you make an informed decision without any hidden surprises. The same principle applies to consulting services. By displaying your prices openly, you're letting clients know what they see is what they get, which can significantly boost their trust in you. Next, let's consider how publicly sharing your prices can filter out non-serious inquiries. See, by making your prices known, you immediately weed out those who cannot afford your services or are simply shopping around without serious intent. And this saves you time and ensures that the leads you do get are more likely to convert. Think of it like having a cover charge at an event. It ensures that only those who are genuinely interested and capable of affording it will attend. And this means your time is spent on serious prospects, not on endless consultations that lead nowhere. That being said, you can try and weed people out when messaging them. You don't need to get on a call with everyone and anyone who flutters their eyelashes at you and DMs you. I don't. You don't need to either. Another significant advantage of public pricing is that it streamlines the sales process. When clients know your prices ahead of time, the sales process becomes much smoother. There's no need for lengthy discussions about costs, and you can focus entirely on the value you provide. This is akin to online shopping, where clear prices make the buying process quick and straightforward. Some clients appreciate knowing what they're getting into without the back and forth of talking about money. However, there are also downsides to consider. One major drawback is that publicly listing your prices can limit your ability to negotiate with clients. Some clients expect a level of negotiation and flexibility, and public pricing can make this challenging. Think of it like a flea market where haggling is part of the experience. Fixed prices might deter some buyers who enjoy or expect the negotiation process. This could mean missing out on clients who might have been willing to work with you if they felt there was room for negotiation. Equally, having the ability to put your prices up depending on the situation is removed if you've publicly listed your prices. So if Coca-Cola come knocking, you know they can afford much more than Mr. Smith, who runs a series of small garages, right? And those public prices that you've shared, well, those have removed your opportunity to negotiate. Another concern is that competitors can easily see what you're charging and potentially undercut you to attract your clients. Imagine running a lemonade stand next to another stand with prices clearly listed. If your competitor sees your prices, they might lower those to win over customers. And this competitive undercutting can be a significant risk, especially in a saturated market where price competition is fierce. Going further, if you cut your prices, then your competitor cuts their prices, and then you cut your prices, etc., etc. Before you know it, it's a race to the bottom, and you might as well just be back in full-time employment. Publicly listing your prices can also lead to perceived value issues. Clients might make judgments about the value of your services based solely on price. So if your prices are higher than others, they might perceive you as overpriced without understanding the additional value you bring. It's like choosing between a budget airline and a full-service airline based on price alone, without considering the added benefits of the latter. And this can lead to potential clients overlooking the quality and the unique benefits of your services simply because they focus on the cost. They're looking at a number and they don't really understand what that number means. Equally, the client might look at your prices and consider you cheap. And then they won't want to work with you because they wonder what's wrong with your services. They must be losing out somewhere if what is on offer is so cheap, right? Like if you found someone to design your website for you and they only wanted 200 quid to do it, you'd be wondering what the hell they were up to because you know the average website designer is much more expensive. And that wonder, that impacts the trust your potential clients have in you and makes them think about working with someone else. Okay, with all that in mind, if you decide that sharing your prices publicly is the right approach for you, there are some effective ways to do it. Firstly, effective copy and design are essential when it comes to making a potential client feel like the investment is worthwhile with you. So just like you wouldn't pay top dollar for a local cafe because of the decor and the environment, nor will your clients pay top dollar if the design and copy on your website and your online presence look like it was done by a 5-year-old. Speaking of which, I'm aware my website could do with some work and it's actually getting done in the background right now. So keep your eyes out for the new website coming in a few days. Next, after the effective sales copy and design to create the right impression, you need to have a detailed service descriptions. So clearly outline what each service includes, not in a boring way, but concisely, so potential clients understand the value behind the price without having to read War and Peace. Think of it like a menu with descriptions of each dish so diners know exactly what they're getting. Using pricing tiers is another great strategy. So offering different pricing tiers to cater to various budgets can make your services more accessible while highlighting premium offerings. It's similar to subscription plans for streaming services. Basic, standard, and premium levels provide options for different needs and budgets. And you could do the same thing and lay the options out in a chart so comparisons can be made easily. Finally, testimonials and case studies are powerful tools for ensuring the value comes across behind your services. So display these alongside your pricing to demonstrate the value and success others have experienced with your services. It's like customer reviews on an e-com website, helping buyers feel confident in their purchase. People want to see proof that your services are worth the investment, and positive feedback from satisfied clients can provide that assurance. I've said this before, but it's worth repeating. Make sure to collect your testimonials in one place, be it Google Business, LinkedIn recommendations, whatever it is. Just choose one place and store them there. And then when you put these testimonials on your website, make sure to include a picture of the person who gave the testimonial. That makes the testimonial more believable and real and personal. We as humans respond to faces. That's why it's always a good idea to have a picture of yourself on your LinkedIn posts. There's more engagement. Equally, it's good to remind people you're out there. Now, what about if you don't want to share your prices publicly? Well, you'll get asked about them on calls or in your DMs. So let's look at how to handle that. Firstly, when someone DMs you and asks about prices without an opportunity for a sales call, offer a price range instead of a fixed price. This gives the client an idea of what to expect while allowing for flexibility based on their needs. It's like saying a hotel room costs between $100 and $150 depending on the season. And this approach provides clarity without being too rigid. You may also want to consider highlighting your unique value briefly. Mention what sets your services apart from others and why they're worth the investment. It's like highlighting the unique features of a product in a quick sales pitch. Even a brief mention can make a big difference in how clients perceive your value. If appropriate, encourage the inquirer to schedule a call for a detailed discussion. This allows you to build rapport and explain the value of your services. It's like inviting someone to a showroom to see and experience the product firsthand. Personal interaction can be very persuasive and helps build a stronger connection with the potential client. On the other hand, if you prefer to discuss pricing during a sales call, there are strategies you can employ. Start with understanding the client's needs first, because this is a crucial step in providing the right solution for the client's needs. So ask questions to understand the client's specific needs and tailor your pricing discussion accordingly. This personalized approach can lead to better outcomes. Think of it like a tailor measuring and understanding the preferences before suggesting a suit. This ensures that what you offer is perfectly suited to the client's requirements. After that, begin building the value of your services. Spend time explaining the benefits and value of your services before discussing the cost. This helps clients see the worth of what you're offering. It's similar to a furniture salesperson highlighting the features and performance of a sofa before revealing the price. The client sees the benefits first and understands what they're paying for, and that brings some much needed context for the price you're about to charge. Next, be open to creating customized packages that fit the client's needs and budgets. Flexibility can be a strong selling point. It's like building your own meal at a restaurant, allowing you to choose exactly what you want. Clients appreciate this level of customization and are more likely to engage with your services. So despite the fact that this podcast is mainly about a set product or service, be open to customizing because it's not always a one-size-fits-all situation, right? And finally, prepare for objections. Anticipate common objections related to pricing and have responses ready. Addressing concerns confidently can help close the deal. It's like a debater preparing counter-arguments in advance. Being prepared helps you handle any objections smoothly and confidently, ensuring that the discussions stay positive and productive. To finish off this podcast episode, I'm going to share 3 tactics with you to help you with your pricing. Firstly, and this is important, try and refer to your prices as an investment instead of a cost or a price or something to pay. I know I've referred to price and cost throughout this podcast, but that's for brevity. It's for common language. But when I'm talking about money on a sales call, I always refer to it as an investment. The reason being that investment has a positive connotation. There's a return on investment. An investment is something you make so that life is better, right? Whereas cost and price, well, they can have negative connotations. There's a price to pay. There's a cost to this. You see what I mean? So yeah, where possible, avoid words which could have negative connotations in them. It's a small thing, but it can really help get a sale over the line. Next, consider ending your prices with a 7. For some reason, people are more drawn to prices which end in a 7, like £99.97, for example. We love the number 7 and it plays a large part in society. Think of the book 7 Habits of Highly Effective Individuals. Think of 7 Wonders of the World and 7 Days of the Week. The number is everywhere, including at casinos which use 7 for their jackpots and the slot machines. We love the number 7. In fact, to prove this point, play a little game later with your children later and ask them to think of a number between 1 and 10. I bet they volunteer 7. Not all of them will, but a large proportion of them will. It's been proven in countless studies. For some reason, we just love this number, so incorporate it into your pricing strategy. Finally, try out price anchoring. Price anchoring is where you throw out a number to get people to focus on that number rather than any number they were thinking of already. And because they focus then on that new number, any number you say after that will be compared to that number. You can use these tactics to make your prices seem lower than they actually are. For example, share that your services won't cost £1,000, but will only cost £300. See how £300 seems much smaller than if you just revealed it bluntly? It's all about context. You're comparing a small number to a high number. You're hearing the high number first. That is the number that everything will be compared against. So when you share a low number, that price seems much lower. So try out anchoring next time you're on a sales call. To wrap up, whether you choose to share your prices publicly or keep them for sales calls, each approach has its pros and cons. However, that being said, the key is to clearly communicate the value of your services and to be flexible and responsive to potential clients' needs. So, sharing prices publicly, that can build trust. It can filter out non-serious inquiries, and it can streamline the sales process. However, it can also limit your negotiation flexibility and expose you to competitors who undercut your prices. It can also create perceived value issues. On the other hand, discussing prices on sales calls allows for negotiation, protects against competitors undercutting, and prevents perceived value issues. But you do need to explain the value first and handle objections effectively. Whichever method you choose, remember it's all about whatever works best for you, your business model, and your values. So, thank you for tuning into this episode of Marketing Made Easy for HR Consultants. If you found the discussion valuable, please share it with your network, leave a positive review, reach out to me on LinkedIn and let me know. Whatever you choose, I'll be happy to hear from you. And if you have any questions or topics you want to cover in future episodes, feel free to reach out to me. Until next time, get marketing, because without marketing, there's no sales. And without sales, there's no business. So get marketing. Hey there, and thanks for listening to the Marketing Made Easy for HR Consultant podcast. If you've enjoyed the show, then please consider taking a moment to help us grow by sharing the episode with a friend or colleague, or by leaving a positive review on podchaser.com. And make sure to hit subscribe so you don't miss out on any of the upcoming episodes. I've been your host, Nick Paninsky, and if you have any questions or want to know more about today's topic, then reach out to me on LinkedIn. I'd be delighted to hear from you. See you next time. This week's LinkedIn What's Hot and What's Not Hot will actually be the final one. I do love sharing LinkedIn tips because I believe it's the platform that we should all be building our businesses on. But I'm conscious I focus too much on this platform, and instead what I've decided to do is share a bonus podcast each week where I share a quick marketing tip you can implement that day or put in your knowledge bank. I think it'll be a lot more helpful. But for this final LinkedIn, What's Hot and What's Not Hot, what I wanted to talk about was automation tools and whether they're good or bad. For me, I think there's a balance to them and when to use them, but I know a lot of people use them to build their businesses. For context, an automation tool is a SaaS plugin which allows you to download data from LinkedIn, and then it carries out a set of automated instructions. So if you downloaded a search result of 1,000 people in your target niche, added them to a campaign, and then it would reach out to them without you doing anything. So yeah, for me, they're great at drumming up business and certainly useful for building your network on autopilot. But without investigating who you're adding to the campaign, you could end up adding people or contacting people who aren't right for your business. Equally, if LinkedIn catch you using these automation tools, you'll be in a lot of trouble. So there are two perspectives. Equally, there's a hell of a lot more to discuss than just this brief discussion. So perhaps I'll dedicate a full podcast episode in due course. But what about you? Have you used an automation tool? Would you? Reach out to me on LinkedIn and let me know. It'd be great to hear from you. Bye for now.